All right. Thanks again, everyone, for joining us for this countywide Vigil for Freedom this year. Really appreciate you finding the time to be with us around this very important topic, working alongside various partners on this call to both bring justice to local survivors and assist in making sure we have the capacity and holistic care for everyone in our county who is currently at risk or who has or is being trafficked. Not an easy topic to ever talk about, but this is our opportunity really as a county and as a community to come together to recognize the issue. You'll be able to stay on later if you want, if you have anything you want to discuss with some of us as taking leadership in the county around this issue. So feel free to stay on afterward if you would like to. I am Jeff Schaefer. I am the co-founder and director of initiatives for SB Act. Our primary role is to assist the Human Trafficking County Task Force under the county, under the DA's office. We help by running several of their working groups and trying to assist survivors as needs come up, either through our housing providers or our outreach workers. We're trying to often raise awareness and educate and do prevention. So all kinds of things we're trying to coordinate. This is not going to be an informational visual. It's going to be more, you're going to hear from different, you're going to hear from Supervisor Hartman, you're going to hear from different agency providers, Megan Ranschild, who helped create the task force. You're going to hear from different people that have a heart for this work. It's going to be more personal than it is going to be informative. As you join, I just want to remind you, feel free to put your information in the chat just to let people know that you're here. SB Act got involved in 2014. We have a long history of working with people on the streets. We joined the task force in 2014 and began ourselves to get educated on the issue. I've been doing outreach with people experiencing homelessness throughout the county since 2005. And as I personally got educated on what's really going on, was able to see the data and hear the stories, I realized that this is something that SB Act and me personally have to put as much effort in as we can to help survivors and help agencies doing tremendous work in our county. I also recognize, as I was doing homeless outreach in Santa Maria and Lompoc, there was a 24-year-old woman that would come to kind of our neighborhood navigation center in Santa Maria. And before I had this understanding of what's going on, I wouldn't have recognized some of the things going on in her life, which led me to understand that she probably is being trafficked, and to try to connect with agencies that could help her that are outside of my expertise. And then working in Lompoc for a while, trying to assist people in the riverbed, recognizing that that was an issue too there, and in Santa Barbara City and across our county. We have all kinds of different providers on this call tonight trying to make a difference. And I just want to say my heart goes out, my thanks go out to all of you that are doing service and the hard work day to day. So I'm very thankful that we have Supervisor Joan Hartman on board as well, County Board of Supervisors, 3rd District. I want to thank you, Supervisor Hartman, for finding the time to join us and for putting this on your priority list. And I want to thank you as well for your advocacy and your work around working with people on the margins. I can vouch for you specifically. I remember we got up 5 o'clock early in the morning a few years back and did the point in time together in the Valley. So really appreciate your heart and look forward to what you're going to share with us tonight. So I'm going to turn it over to you.
Thank you so much for allowing me to join you tonight. As I look around at everyone who's participating, I mean, you all are the people who not only bear witness, but really get in there and engage with some of the most tragic, heartrending stories that anyone has to encounter. January is National Human Trafficking Prevention Month, so it is an opportunity to draw attention to this scourge. It's really a pernicious form of modern slavery, and it's the fastest growing and 2nd largest criminal industry in the world. something I hadn't realized until I started looking for this talk today. The US, I found out, is one of the countries where trafficking is the most common after Mexico and the Philippines. And California is the state with the most trafficking in the US. And cities like San Diego, LA, and San Francisco are really major hubs, and they're along the 101. And so it's the connecting corridor, and Santa Barbara County is very much a part of that network. During COVID, trafficking has really risen because so many vulnerable young people aren't in school and they aren't at work, and they're really more susceptible, I think, as everyone is, to deceiving practices and savvy traffickers and lack of housing. So we've created an environment where people are much more susceptible to this. I was involved in the breaking up some of the encampments in Isla Vista and getting the pallet shelters there. And what we found was a woman being trafficked. My district now includes Lompoc and the Santa Ynez River, and talking to people, again, 2 women in one particular area who are victims of trafficking. So as much as we might like to turn our eyes away, Santa Barbara County is really experiencing this, and it's something we have to own up to. And it's the county's interdisciplinary human trafficking task force that really is the best way to do this. It's been a powerful partnership in our county since 2013, and it focuses on the 3 Ps: prevention, protection, and prosecution. And it includes the sheriffs and the DA's victim services, organizations like SB ACT and the Rape Crisis Center, among others. And it's really the collaboration among these partners that has coalesced into a really high functioning and really committed team. And it's that kind of a collaboration that's really needed to address all 3 of the Ps. And since 2017, we've had almost 200 investigations and 183 survivors identified in our community. So that's really an amazing statistic for me. And 1/3 of these people are minors, and another 1/3 are young adults between 18 and 24. And half are residents from our own county and the other half from California. So the victims are our very own children and our very own young adults. And so I really am appreciative, and I now serve as the chair of the board for this year. So I speak on behalf of the board as a whole to our Santa Barbara Task Force for helping to educate the entire community to be on the lookout for those who might be victims, and to support them and help them recover from really what is an unspeakable exploitation. And it's also prosecuting those who perpetrate and support this horrible crime. So on behalf of the Board of Supervisors and the residents of Santa Barbara County who we represent, I want to express a deep debt of gratitude to the Human Trafficking Task Force for your collaboration and teamwork in helping victims recover, to survive, and then thrive under your tender care. So thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Supervisor Hartman, for capturing the full scale of the effort coming together with the Human Trafficking Task Force, for your leadership from the chair position, and for your passion about the issue. And we definitely look forward to working with the Board of Supervisors moving forward, and making greater change in our county. If you want to put a thumbs up or some applause or something to share with her, that would be awesome. So thank you so much. So now we get to hear from some of the agencies that have been doing the work the longest, who have been working with at-risk families, at-risk youth, been working directly with survivors, working directly with other agencies, doing warm handoffs, and caring for these individuals in our community. And I want to start by introducing Felisa Vasquez Gonzalez, who is the Community Education Coordinating for Standing Together to End Sexual Assault. And there's no greater partner in this work than Stessa, who has been involved in the prevention work and the education work, also in, as I said, working directly with survivors, trying to get them connected to key services. So really want to appreciate you. And I'm going to hand it over to you now and take it away.
Right, thank you, Jeff. Good evening, everyone. My name is Felisa Vasquez Gonzalez, and I'm with Standing Together to End Sexual Assault, otherwise known as STESA. And at STESA, we are dedicated to supporting and empowering survivors of sexual assault. Sexual assault is defined as any sexual contact, whether physical, verbal, or visual, that occurs without the consent of the other person. Human sex trafficking falls under this definition, wherein individuals who are trafficked, often minors, are unable to give consent as defined by the California law. However, anyone can be a survivor of trafficking, whether male, female, young, or old, with many having endured the use of force, fraud, or coercion. We know the effects that human sex trafficking has on a survivor's life. Coming back to their daily routines can be difficult for a survivor when they do not know that they do not have the adequate support from their community. When we meet with trafficked survivors, we know that some of them have been groomed and abused. And for that matter, they do not identify themselves as victims of a crime. They have been groomed to not identify themselves as a victim in some of the instances, and they believe that they're in a love relationship with their exploiter. They think that they do not have the ability to leave the situation or the exploiter, and we work one-on-one with survivors to address the trauma endured and support them on their path to healing. And we do this, right, either connecting them with one of our partners or providing counseling and other support services. In our effort to bring an end to human sex trafficking, we bring awareness and education at many different levels within our community. The youth that I have gotten the opportunity to work with have been very aware of the concepts of mental health, equality, and healthy relationships. And we do this through some of the presentations at schools. And as well as the presentations that we provide to the youth, they enhance the skills that they're already aware of. And they also are aware of what human trafficking looks like. And we also provide education to families and loved ones who we know are also affected and who often struggle to understand exploitation. And this way, our youth are aware of their surroundings, right? And if they feel like in an unsafe environment, that they can go to the adequate resources or even a trusted adult so that they can feel safe. And this makes such a big impact in our communities because we're seeing the change and the progress in our future generations. But I would also like to highlight our partner, North County Rape Crisis and Child Protection Center, who provides education and prevention skills to the community, children, adults to alleviate the trauma experienced by survivors of these crimes by providing direct services. Some of the services that they help, that they provide to survivors and their family by our education as well. So we are working partners. And as well, we wanted to invite our community members to support STESA and our partners in our efforts to end all forms of sexual assault. And it can look different for each person, right? Maybe we bring awareness to our everyday use of language, right? For example, refraining from using language that victimizes survivors of human trafficking. And as well, volunteering your time with any of the organizations supporting our efforts today. Our community needs us whenever one of our members faces an injustice or violence, and we can use our voice in uplifting them. And I'll give some time for Anne to say some words.
Thanks so much, Felisa. My name is Anne McCarty. I'm the Executive Director for the North County Rape Crisis and Child Protection Center. And one of the things that people sometimes struggle with is, what is the face of human trafficking? What does it look like? And oftentimes, what does it feel like? And I just kind of want to paint a little picture for you, because for those of us that do this frontline work, we take successes in small incremental steps. And tonight, I'm going to share with you a little story about a small step that a woman took that was really huge. She was an individual that was taken off the streets in Lompoc. She had a history of homelessness, a history of living in the riverbed, and a history of being trafficked. And when we finally got her to safety with the help of the support of the victim witness advocates through the district attorney's office, we got her into to a safe place, got her settled. She needed to detox. She needed to just rest and sleep. So it was probably about 2 weeks later that I saw her in person again. And when I saw her, the first thing that I noticed was that she had painted her toenails. Now that might seem silly, but when you take an individual who's been living on the streets and has just been trafficked more times than we can count, something as small as being clean and painting their toenails, that was a spectacular thing to her. And we celebrated that because it needed to be celebrated. So when we talk about, as advocates, supporting survivors, it goes way beyond the care packages that we give them or the education that we share with them, or just the time that we sit with them. It's helping them grow and helping them realize what their full potential is. And to me, that's what it means to be an advocate. And that's why I'm proud and honored to do this work in our county. So thank you.
So I want to thank you both, not only for the hard work you do day to day, but for your just collaborative nature. There's no bigger advocate for having a county-wide approach and doing this together than you'll find in Ann. And so really appreciate your efforts. And so you have the information on there if you want to support either of these agencies or you have more questions about what's happening countywide. And then just go ahead and give the thumbs up again or applause or whatever you want to do for the work that they're doing on your screen. And really appreciate your work. So now I want to turn it over to Dr. Judy Osterich. She's with Santa Barbara City College. She's the Foster and Kinship Care Education Program kind of coordinator, and she also has a trafficking awareness training that she's put together, which is fantastic because it's virtual. And so it's easier for some of our partners, especially during times of COVID, to actually get the training they need when we're talking about hotels or the bus stations, all the partners that she trains. I just want to appreciate you for doing that. And I'm going to turn it over to you.
Thank you, Jeff. And thank you for your leadership as well. It's very, very, very honored to be part of this. I work for Santa Barbara City College, and I have for years. And how I got involved with trafficking was a few years back. As I train foster parents, the statistics show that a majority of our kids, foster kids, get trafficked. And so that's not something that we took lightly, because we're seeing that over and over, and that's a high percentage of our kids. They're vulnerable. Our foster kids are vulnerable. And so with that, that became a state mandate to train our foster parents about trafficking, about the signs, about the indicators, and also about how to bring a wounded trafficked survivor into their home and help them thrive. And so that opened my eyes and opened the doors to me becoming part of the trafficking awareness. And the sad part was there was trafficking and grooming going on our campus, on beautiful Santa Barbara City College, and there's grooming taking place. And it kind of blows your mind, because it's like, what, our beautiful Santa Barbara? But I realized too that that's part of the myth and the misconception that a lot of people have in our community, that it's not taking place here. And I think because it's such a beautiful community that they don't understand that it really, really is. And we really have kids that are being exploited here in our schools and in our community. And so I just feel very honored to be able to help our foster parents transition into being able to help our survivors. And so that's really key. And during this pandemic, like was mentioned, is that it has really, really increased. And having said that, and working with survivors, I realized I just can't not do anything. I felt like I had to do more besides I'm doing my job and training and educating. I do education for the faculty and staff, but I felt like I wanted to do more. And that's when I started trafficking awareness, because all of a sudden there's a lot of laws and mandates that weren't really being adhered to, like hotel employees, casinos, bus stations, train stations, like Jeff mentioned. All of these have mandates for all their employees to be trained in trafficking awareness, but it's not often happening. And so that's when I created the online courses, because I really want to be part of the education piece. And because awareness and education helps with the prevention, because then more people are able to say, wait a minute, this doesn't look right, or this looks funny. And so that really became my heart. I was instrumental also in helping Hope Refuge become a nonprofit to start up. And so I really, really have a heart for our survivors and for what takes place in Santa Barbara as part of that group effort, and that effort to help our children and protect our children. When COVID hit, and a lot of the hotels closed down, the assumption was, oh, good, trafficking wasn't happening. But the actuality was it pivoted over to short-term rentals. And so now the whole short-term rental problem is here. And so again, that's where we need to educate our people so we can stay ahead of it. So, and that's kind of my journey. Part of Santa Barbara City College, when I working with the foundation of Santa Barbara City College, if we do have survivors or we do have kids who have been trafficked, we want to help them, and we want to cover the cost of school. Typically, we cover the cost of kids that graduate from local high schools. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if they graduate from local high schools. We want to help our survivors get back, help them get educated, and help them get and thrive. And so I'm just really honored to be on this task force. And again, I thank you and give a shout out to all these wonderful agencies that I work with. And thank you for giving me the time to speak to this problem and to be part of the solution. So thank you.
Thank you, Judy. I've had the opportunity to walk through some of your trainings and really appreciate them. I've learned new things from each one that I've watched. And I want to thank you. You were key. That first event, one of the first events I went to be educated with Teresa Phelps that you put on campus was instrumental too. So thank you for all your work and all your partnerships and all that you're doing.
Absolutely.
So one of the goals for SB Act, as far as our education working group, was to create trafficking action groups on our college campuses so that all of our college act campuses, as Judy just mentioned, as far as Santa Barbara City College, students need to be educated, and we need to bring students into leadership. So we want to develop that kind of structure. So I've had the opportunity to work with two wonderful interns this year who have both started up trafficking action groups on their campuses. And some of that has been impacted by COVID again, but we're still pushing through to try to organize students and organize these trainings on campus. I'm going to start with Olivia Apple, who is a senior at UCSB, has really been working with me. I think she first went through a training we did for underserved, for the Doctors Without Walls underserved medicine class. That's where she kind of sparked an interest in this. So I'm going to turn it over to you, Olivia, to talk a little bit about why you're passionate about the issue and just what UCSB TAG is.
Great. Thank you, Jeff. Hello, everyone. My name is Olivia, and I'm currently a senior at the University of California, Santa Barbara, and interning for Jeff at SB Act. As you just said, I first met Jeff when he came to speak at a public health class I was taking last year. He gave us a version of SB Act's Human Trafficking 101 training, and I realized that I really had a passion for this topic. I've always been really aware of violence and exploitation throughout my life, but I've often felt really helpless about how to stop it. I never really saw myself as a person with any power to make real impact, but with Jeff and SB Act, along with all of you outstanding community members here tonight, you've all allowed me to learn to use my passion and work for something real. I've been able to see the power that I have and begun to use it for good. And for the first time in my life, I have found a way to try and fight for freedom for everyone. Through this, well, since working with Jeff, we have started a trafficking action group on the UCSB campus, which is dedicated to educating the student body about human trafficking and its effects. This club, named UCSB TAG, is so important because it invites people from all walks of life to learn and stand against human trafficking. Many of my fellow students at UCSB will end up in any number of industries that are exposed to human trafficking. From medical fields to educational disciplines and more, we at UCSB TAG can help teach students the warning signs of exploitation and trafficking so that they can recognize it in the future. Additionally, teaching the student body about the dangers of human trafficking can help them be prepared for the potentially dangerous world that we currently live in. UCSB TAG's connection with the campus community has helped us begin to educate students about human trafficking and start preventing it on the collegiate scale, which is so important. Personally, UCSB TAG is really important to me because it's allowed me to see myself as like a full-fledged member of the Santa Barbara community. And as a member, I'm dedicated to ending any violence and suffering that I can. This organization has allowed me to recognize my autonomy as a person in this world and to use my resources and talents for good. It has awakened me to my own agency and shown me that even one person can make a massive difference for the better. As we've seen tonight, every single one of us has the agency to work for good, and working together will increase our power of good infinitely. I'm so grateful to be a part of this fantastic organization and to work with all of you outstanding community members to end human trafficking and make our world a better place. Thank you all for everything you have done and are continuing to do to help end human trafficking and fight for freedom. And a special thanks to my UCSB TAG club members on the call tonight. Thank you.
Wow, I think somebody may be doing a run for my job here. Well said. And you might want to hire this person, as well as Peyton, who's coming up in a minute. She's a junior. Olivia, I just want to give my own personal heart thanks for you working with me through all the pandemic. And we certainly do hope that UCSB goes live at some point and we can all meet in person. We've been waiting for that. So thank you again, and just a joy to work with you.
Right back.
So I want to bring on Peyton Liebman Marshall now, who just as wonderful as Olivia, just have had a great time working with her. This last semester, she helped get Westmont TAG off the ground, similar to UCSB TAG. Just has a tremendous heart for people on the margins. Started TAG, and as well as she comes to Bread of Life, our meal sharing with people on the streets on a regular basis. So she's a tremendous leader as well. So Peyton, I'm going to hand it over to you.
Thank you, Jeff. Hi, as Jeff said, my name is Peyton, and I'm a junior at Westmont and representing Westmont TAG. And I think just to start off, how I came to be passionate about human trafficking was going to Bread of Life, like Jeff said, and starting to understand people on the margins and people who just aren't reached out in the way that, like, as Westmont students, especially on our hill, it's very easy for us to stay just isolated and distant from Santa Barbara community. So coming down the hill and becoming friends with people on the streets and experiencing homelessness, I really began to see just the hurt in our community and just brokenness. And yeah, so then I began to think, or I met with Jeff, and the opportunity arose for Westmont TAG to need a leader, and I really wanted to step into that position because unlike homelessness, human trafficking is not right in front of your eyes and is often overlooked, and Westmont needed to be educated about it. So yeah, and something super important that I just found really helpful was thinking about the 3 Ps of how to stop human trafficking. And I think Judy mentioned it earlier: prevention, protection, and prosecution. And one of the most important things is prevention, which is through education. So Westmont TAG, our vision is for campus education and then also supporting local agencies. So we're working to think of the best strategies to best educate Westmont students through Trafficking 101, and also just hearing stories and understanding the circumstances that human trafficking can happen in, and it's often not what you assume. And so just educating students about that is really important. And then also partnering with an organization off campus and creating a consistent relationship so that we can really take action in the community. Because like I said, we can really get involved in our lives and be isolated on campus, and being a part of the community and taking action is so important. So TAG is a safe space for students to learn about, discuss, and reflect on the issue of human trafficking and the effects in our community. And I've had the pleasure and just honor to be on and listen in on calls about human trafficking in the community and the task force. And it's amazing to see what dedication takes for laws to be changed and for actions to actually happen. And so that's also just a really important piece of it. And so I just feel really grateful to be in a space where people care so deeply about people who aren't able to speak up and have their voices be heard.
Thanks so much, Peyton. Miss having you as an intern. So glad to still be able to see you at the park and work with you in other ways. And TAG is now rolling. You've created there's new leaders stepping in, and so some of those leaders I believe on this call tonight. So want to thank UCSB, want to thank Westmont, want to thank City College for the interest in the issue, and thank you for your leadership and your love for people.
Jeff, is it okay if I just say one thing real quick? This is Ann.
Sure.
I just have to speak to what my heart is feeling right now. And I think there might be some other people on this call that might be feeling the same thing. And that listening to Peyton and Olivia gives me great hope. You know, for those of us that have been doing this work for a long time, to have young people that are interested in this work and interested in making a difference like we've been doing, to be putting themselves out there, I think speaks volumes to the work that's being done in this county. But it gives me hope for, 5 years from now or 10 years from now, when we're no longer doing this work, we've got people that are coming behind us and that are not pushing us out of the way, but lifting us up. So thank you, Peyton and Olivia.
Yeah, I have to say that's, if something has made me tear up, is listening to both of you. And so thankful for what you're doing. And I know I agree with you, Anne. For those who've been doing the work, it's such a breath of fresh air to know that the community cares and more people care. So thank you. So last, but certainly not least, I want to welcome Rabbi Daniel Brenner from the Congregation B'nai B'rith. And my experience with him working primarily on some of our initiatives to help people experiencing homelessness, having a few opportunities to talk with him about human trafficking, know that his heart is huge for people on the margins, that he cares about the issue. His entire congregation cares about the issue. They're taking leadership in the community. And what better way, something that's so present and difficult before us, oftentimes we need faith leaders to give us faith. Whatever that looks like, whatever tradition we come from, it's good to be carried forward by people who can see the future, who can rally other people toward the cause. So I'm going to hand it over to Rabbi Brenner, and just again want to appreciate you and all your work.
Thank you, Jeff. But I would say nothing rallies people to the cause and gives people hope more than young people with bigger dreams than we have. I am following very big shoes, and I'm very inspired. I just want to thank everyone for inviting me to speak for a moment. If you were watching the news, then you know that 5 days ago, 4 Jewish individuals were taken hostage in the middle of a prayer service and held for 11 hours by an individual who had no compassion for their lives. It was frightening for those who weren't involved, let alone those who were. And miraculously, all 4 of them escaped unharmed physically. But the emotional trauma that they suffered during those 11 hours will be with them for the rest of their lives. At this moment, there are individuals in this city, in this county, who are being held against their will, victims of violence, sexual exploitation, and these holy human beings are being held not for 11 hours, but perhaps 11 days, or 11 weeks, or 11 months, or even years, by sadistic individuals with no compassion for their lives. None avoid emotional trauma. Most do not avoid physical trauma. They are here and they need us. When they are finally free, their plight is not over. Our love and our guiding hands are part of the healing journey toward wholeness once again. In the Jewish tradition, which is the only tradition I feel equipped to speak for, the highest, most holy, most important commandment is to free your neighbor from captivity. Nothing is above that. When in the complicated Jewish legal code of the Talmud, the rabbis discuss levels of sanctity that you can use money for, they explicitly state that the highest level of sanctity are funds set aside to be used to free someone held against their will. We are called to be part of the important work of bringing the individuals in our community out of the darkness and into the light, out of fear and into freedom. You might think, what can I personally do? I care about this, but I don't know my part to play. The very least we can do is remember. Remember that they are there. Because if we remember, we might be called to pray. If we remember, we might be called to act. Tonight, we renew our commitment to this important work. The impactful words of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. still linger from this weekend. They carry in our soul by moral imperative. No one is free until we are all free. We pray tonight for a free humanity.
Thank you. I'm not going to add much to that. This leads us perfectly into a time of reflection. If you haven't lit your candles, or like me, I have my battery operated one. I was afraid of trying to light something in the midst of this. It's time to kind of pull your candle out, and we're going to reflect. Think about the words that you heard tonight, what impacted you the most. This is a time of recognition directly both for survivors that we know about in our county and those who are at risk, those who we may not know right now. So pull your candles out. What we're going to do is we're going to take 4 minutes, and however you want to meditate, be silent, pray. This time is dedicated just to the young men and women in our county who we need to recognize both as resilient survivors while they are potentially being victimized. So I'm going to start the 4 minutes, and just encourage you, however you feel comfortable, take that time and be silent. Thanks, everyone. I want to apologize. I didn't mention that the 4 minutes represents 1 second for each of the 183 survivors. identified by the Human Trafficking Task Force and 1 minute for survivors yet to be identified. So thank you so much for spending those 4 minutes recognizing the young men and women who we get to serve together. I want to let you know that I just received a text as well from the detectives that are doing the work in our county, and they wanted to send their appreciation to everyone that's a part of this vigil, and also to mention that the funded position for our detective expires in September, and we need the board supervisors they need to authorize some more funding for our detective, or we may not have one moving forward into the next year. So that came directly from them. So I don't know if I believe Rita and Megan's going to wrap up our call if she wants to speak more to that. That is a much needed position within our county. So just letting you know about that. So I think at this point we want to move toward the action piece and then close together. So Landon, did you have some slides to put up, and then I'll hand it over to Megan. So there are some ways to get involved. We have organized efforts for gift cards for survivors and try to make it as simple as possible. With the website there's ways you can donate to that and give funding toward gift cards that often our housing and shelter providers will use, victim witness will use, Rape Crisis or STESA might need. So there's ways just to get gift cards into the hands of these agencies and partners. One of the things we know with survivors is giving them the ability to choose things they need and want is a very important thing, and these gift cards oftentimes allow that. Christy Mark is on the call tonight as well, and she has collaborated to build the Interfaith Collaborative. You can see the website information there. So if you're part of a faith community and you haven't joined them yet as well, would love to have you engage with them. They are also a key partner in helping survivors with some gift bags and some to-go items, and educating their faith communities in the county as well. So you have an opportunity to join the Interfaith Collaborative. And then Landon, is there another slide? As I mentioned, we coordinate some of the human trafficking task force working groups. The task force meets every other month, and then I try to have these working groups on the off month of the task force meeting. We have a prevention and education working group. We're going to restart the housing and shelter. We're going to restart a labor trafficking. We're going to start a labor trafficking working group looking at that issue. And we have a new healthcare holistic health working group we're going to start up in the new year, as well as a data and evaluation and a legislative working group. So if you want to get more involved just in the collaborative efforts, feel free to reach out to me and I will connect you to partners if needed. If there's a passion you have, I'll try to help you figure out a way to serve. So I believe that's it for me. And I just want to thank Megan, who has helped create the DA's Human Trafficking Task Force, has been the driving force behind it. I think Landon's going to put something, she did a YouTube, she's on YouTube, she did a TEDx talk, which I highly encourage all of you to watch. It's her leadership and her passion, as well as the other members of Victim Witness and the DA's office that has really led the cause. We wouldn't be here without your leadership, Megan. So I know we all appreciate you, and I want to allow you to kind of wrap up the evening with your final thoughts and close us out.
Thank you, Jeff. I appreciate being able to close this important event. And it truly is a demonstration of the fact that it takes a village to pull something together as we have over the past now 5 years. I appreciate all of the partners, some of whom are recognized here and on this call, but others like the Junior League, who were instrumental in getting our first house opened together with kids, 2 Kids for Kids in Santa Barbara County, and providing a safe place for minor victims of human trafficking. Certainly, SB Act has been an integral part of our task force, and I want to thank Jeff and Landon for their leadership in pulling together many of the committees and keeping us organized and on track, and convening important conversations about the various different aspects of serving survivors of trafficking. It's multifaceted. It's difficult to cover all that has been done over the past 5, now almost 6 years. We're in the second grant cycle. We have a grant with the federal government, with the Office for Victims of Crime, together with the Sheriff's Department, whom has been a tremendous partner to us. Not to mention the other agencies, the law enforcement agencies around the county, who have radically, how shall I say, shifted their perspective while interacting with survivors of human trafficking. And the relationships and the partnerships that we have built with local law enforcement, and I must say in part due to advocates being in the trenches, not just STESA and North County Rape Crisis, but our own advocates, Rita McGaw, who works here in our office and has built one-to-one relationships with law enforcement and provided a one-to-one education regarding what it is to communicate out in the field with someone who might look like someone to be arrested, but in actuality is a survivor of complex trauma and often has been exploited. So it would be remiss of me also not to talk about some of our other county partners, besides some of the nonprofits, including the Department of Social Services and Child Welfare, the probation department, who we work with closely with the juvenile population who comes through the juvenile justice system, and behavioral wellness, who we've also partnered with, who has been instrumental in identifying youth who come through the juvenile justice system, who also have been subjected to exploitive conduct. And so really it's a network, it's a patchwork of many of our partners. I really feel fortunate and gratified by the work that all of us have pulled together to do on behalf of survivors. I do believe there's still quite a bit to do. And we're hopeful that we can sustain the goals and objectives of the task force. I can't say enough about the support of the faith community, who really, prior to us forming the human trafficking task force in a formal way back in 2016, were approaching our district attorney, Joyce Studley, who has been supportive of this mission from the get-go, and asking us as a law enforcement agency, what are you doing about this? What are you going to do about it? And really was inspired by the faith community who came to us asking these questions. And so it's kind of come full circle, because we have SB Act and the Faith Collaborative that have helped keep us afloat during COVID. And certainly when many of us are experiencing some vicarious trauma ourselves and out working in the field and directly with survivors. So I appreciate that immensely. And I want to thank Joan Hartman, Chair of the Board of Supervisors, who's been staunch supporter of our efforts. And we look forward to building a sustainable plan for the task force, which includes support for our victim advocacy efforts and the Sheriff's Department. And so I thank you for being a part of this. I know we might be eating dinner with loved ones or home reading a book by the fire, but I appreciate everybody being here with their candles and continuing to inspire the effort. So thank you very much. I'm honored to be here, and thank you.
Thank you. I think for me personally, I could say this is something I feel like I needed this week, and it gives me the energy to keep going, and I hope it's been the same for you. We want to continue to support the fantastic work of the task force, continue to collaborate well and work together, and we will continue to do our part to bring together as many partners and agencies and funding as we can to make sure that there's a robust team tackling both sex trafficking and labor trafficking.